Europe's longest flights to each continent. So the shortest is to Africa. Well, the shortest flight to another continent, but it's still the longest flight to Africa. Going all the way down to the tip of South Africa. This takes about 11 hours and 15 minutes. Then the next shortest is to North America, and the flight starts in Turkey and ends in Mexico City. This is about a 15-hour flight. Ugh, I don't know if I could do that. You know what? The flight to South America is technically longer by kilometers, but it takes less time. I don't know how that works. That is a flight from London in the UK all the way down to Chile. This is a British Airlines flight. Now, the two longest go to Asia and Australia, respectively. Is this the way the globe rotates or something? Again, the flight is technically longer, but it's only 13 hours. It's from Manchester to Singapore, and the actual longest flight from Europe is all the way down here to Perth, Australia, starting in London, going almost 15,000 kilometers. That's a 17-hour flight. No, thank you. I don't even like doing 11-hour flights. I probably start feeling like I'm in an episode of The Twilight Zone. Now, here's that same concept, except longest flights out of North America. So the longest flight from North America to South America is from LA all the way down here to Brazil. It's about 6,000 miles. Kind of surprised that's the longest. Like, what about Anchorage? Well, right now there is no flight from Anchorage, Alaska. I don't really see why they would do that. Again, this is just the longest current one you can take. And the longest flight to Africa is from Atlanta, Georgia, all the way down to South Africa. Once again, that's 8,500 miles. Of course, similarly, like we just saw, the longest flight from North America to Europe is the 7,000-mile flight from Turkey to Mexico City. We just covered that. There's a 9,000-mile flight from New York all the way to Singapore. Wonder how long that would take. 18 hours and 50 minutes? No, thank you. Finally, North America to Oceania. We go New York to, I believe, Sydney, Australia. Only 8,000 miles, though. You have to cross over the map and go, oh, this is actually to Auckland, New Zealand. They don't go straight to Australia? That one's only about 16 hours and 15 minutes. Still pretty bad, though. I'm good. I'll pass on these. Here are the 30 busiest ports in the world. I've been getting more and more into shipping as of lately. There's just so much that goes on out there. Starting things off at number 30, we have this port in Vietnam. Then at 29, this one in China. I expect we're going to see a ton from China. Port of Savannah in the US. There's one in India. Yeah, India is going to pop up a lot. We also have Morocco, 2 Chinas, Sri Lanka. Port of Hamburg, Germany, starting off the first European on the list. Port of New York and New Jersey, the 17th spot in the world. Port of Antwerp, very big, bigger than Germany here in Belgium. Port of Rotterdam in 11th out of the Netherlands. Port of Hong Kong in 10th. Port of Los Angeles is the one that I was looking for because this is the closest to where I live. I thought we'd be a little bit bigger, but part of the problem is we're being dominated by China. They are taking up a lot of the top 10. Just South Korea, Port of Busan is here in 7th. Finally, in 2nd is Singapore, and number 1 is Port of Shanghai, also in China. So technically, the Los Angeles port is really big in the rest of the world. Compared to the rest of the world, it's just China's just killing it. And because of how China works, their position on the map, where their population density is, all that makes sense why they do that. Many people call them the world's factory after all. So this makes sense. They got to ship that stuff out. 113 million people will enter the global consumer class in 2024. It's expected to reach 5 billion by 2031. Now, this is color-coded by continent. You can probably guess which one is red. But first, to start off, 5 million new consumers will enter from the rest of the world. We have 4 million coming out of Latin America, and then 1 million out of both Brazil and Mexico. 7 million out of Africa, but 2 of those are coming from Egypt and 1 in Nigeria. So that's like a total of 10 completely out of the African continent. Then here we go. Asia, Thailand, Turkey, Vietnam, Bangladesh, Philippines, Indonesia, Pakistan. 6 million. Yeah, it's just so much out of Asia. Asia has so many people. In China, 31 million people will now enter the consumer classes of 2024, but India still has them beat with 33 million. 57% of new consumers in 2024 will come from either China or India. That's over half. And that is why so many companies put so much effort in India and China. Whether you're an American company or any other company from around the world, there's a lot of potential new buyers from there. China's a little bit more difficult because they like to close their borders. It's harder to get in. All right, I find this one fascinating. The largest non-African nationality in each African country. I don't think I've ever seen a map like this. So these are people living in Africa that weren't born in Africa. Obviously, a lot are coming from China. China is Africa's biggest trade partner for a majority of the countries here. In fact, the map talking about African countries and their #1 export is almost a mirror image. You're going to see a lot of similarities. Remember this map. Of course, not exactly, one outlier being in the southern part of Africa. A lot of Dutch people here. Also, Portuguese people still in their former colony. A lot of Indians moving to East Africa, as well as a lot of Syrians in Sudan and Somalia. A lot of Indians moving to Nigeria. Really interesting to see how many French people have moved to the former French African colonies, except for Algeria. I'm surprised they got beat out by China in Algeria. I would think there'd be a lot more Spanish people living in Africa, but no, it's French too. This is the only place where British citizens are moving to, where they have the majority. A lot of Lebanese here, in Liberia too, and then the Belgians here together. I thought we weren't going to allow any more Belgians in Africa after what they did to the Congo. Saudi Arabia and Egypt, that's the big outlier. and of course Italy once had Libya as a colony, so again a little bit of a reflection there. Yeah, this is a really cool map. I need to visit Africa one day. The most visited cities in Europe as of 2023. So this is post-COVID times. That's what's big. So starting off the list, we have Budapest in Hungary with 14 million visitors. Wanted to go to Budapest so bad. I haven't made it there yet. Then we have Athens, Greece with 16 million. I thought they'd be a little bit higher actually. Vienna, Austria with 18 million visitors. I have been to Vienna, loved it. Then we have Prague and Czech Republic with 20 million. Istanbul with 22 million. I was close to going here. My friend went here. Amsterdam, of course, in 25 million. London actually just barely beating that, and they're not even in the top 3 though. A little shocked by it. The top 3 is Rome, Barcelona, and Paris. I have visited all of these places, and I see once again, even if you look at pre-COVID numbers, Paris is still dominating Europe as the #1 most traveled place. They've bounced back quickly. I'm really surprised to see Barcelona though beating out places like London and Amsterdam. Also, didn't even realize not a lot of people are traveling to Germany. A lot of places beating Germany. Kind of wonder how Barcelona beat out Madrid. I personally prefer Madrid here in Spain. I actually bet it's just a geographical thing. For people doing Euro trips, maybe starting off in Paris, it's a lot easier to get to Barcelona. It's right there. Madrid's a little bit further in. And if you want to leave, it's nice and easy to get to Italy after that. I think that's why. Is your country singular or plural in Polish? We have bananas just because. Why not? These bananas to scale. So for example, in English, we say the Netherlands. That is a country that is plural. I think that might be the only country we say that's plural. Oh no, there's many. There's the Bahamas, the Solomon Islands, Laos, the Philippines, Honduras. Well, it's funny. I get why we would pluralize islands. I don't know if that's a word. But interestingly, I guess in the Polish language, they might be making even more countries plural. So here we have the Italians, the Hungarians, the Czechs, and of course, the Germans. These are all geographically close to Poland too. I wonder if that has anything to do with it. I have no idea. Meanwhile, all these other places are singular. That's why there's only one banana. Losers. Also, just realized the United States is technically plural. We've pluralized ourselves. And of course, that translates over to the Polish language. We are also plural there. All the green countries, in fact, on this map are also plural in Polish. So some interesting ones, India and China. I wonder why. Also, the countries in pink are female in Polish, and blue, they are male. What an interesting language you got there, Poland. I wonder if Poland just really loves bananas. Is that why they did this map like this? Where citizenship cannot be renounced. So yes, technically you can renounce your citizenship in the United States. In fact, I've actually heard of a lot of Americans doing that and then moving to Puerto Rico. You can move to this island because it's still considered a U.S. territory, and they do this to pretty much avoid paying almost any taxes. No federal or state taxes. There are still some that you have to pay, but it's not much. Isn't that what Logan Paul did? Now, majority of places around the world allow you to renounce your citizenship if you want, except for a few countries. Now, the dashed countries you can technically, but they kind of make it practically impossible, so you'll never be able to escape. The biggest one I'm most surprised about is Mexico. You cannot stop being Mexican, even if you tried. There is no way to renounce it. Now, it doesn't mean you can't be a citizen of one of these blue countries and a citizen of another. Of course, that can be a thing. So interesting, all of Central America and almost all the Caribbean do this. We have Ecuador, Uruguay, and Argentina. A couple places in Africa. The only place in Europe is Greece, and only a few here in Asia. I don't know why I needed to know this information, but I did find it still fascinating. I had no idea we had this. Here is United States mottos. I don't know if I've ever heard this out of California, Eureka, or I found it. I think this is a gold reference. In Nevada, it's all for our country. A lot of these mottos aren't even actually originally in English. Wyoming with equal rights. Oh, Florida, in God we trust. I get that. Texas with friendship? Man, that is lame. Sorry, Texas, but really? And it's not like it's even in like a cool language like Latin. It's just in English. Y'all chose friendship. I'm sorry. Oh my, that's like the worst on here. Oh, that's right, New York. Okay, I've heard of this one. That's pretty epic. Yeah, New York went with a Latin one. Now, I think all the states that were originally part of the 13 colonies are gonna have some pretty epic state mottos. While Rhode Island with hope, I mean, that's not that epic, but live free or die, I like that. Freedom and unity. Okay, yeah, the original 13 colonies have some really good ones. Liberty and independence, manly deeds, womanly words out of Maryland, thus always to tyrants. Mountaineers are always free. That's why West Virginia is called the Mountaineers. Oh man, yeah, the East Coast is just doing so good. My birth state of Alabama, we dare to defend our rights by valor and arms. The people. Okay, so some of these mottos are actually pretty epic, specifically the Latin ones. Washington with a Chinook motto, by and by. That's the only one with Native American origin. Of course, Hawaiian with a Hawaiian motto. You gotta do that. Wonder why Minnesota chose French here. The Star of the North. That's really odd. You'd think Louisiana would have done that. Montana with the only Spanish one, gold and silver. You gotta love that. And then North Dakota with the only English/Latin. I don't don't mean this to just be like a dunk on Texas, but it's just really funny that you could just do a tier list of this, and obviously Texas is going to be towards the bottom. I mean, Wisconsin isn't great, or Utah either. It's just the friendship. What is this, an anime? With power of friendship, we can defeat the bad guys. What if the US actually did another proposal to buy Mexican territory? Now, of course, they already did this in the past. In 1853, James Gaddison made 4 proposals for Mexican territory. This first offer, they would have given $50 million to Mexico, but we'd finally have a united California. We'd also obviously be extending beyond the river. The second offer was $35 million, but we left the peninsula there. The third proposal was $30 million. We take this territory, and I'm not sure why this is purple. Does this become its own state, or is it a vassal? The US ended up choosing this fourth proposal. They were going to take more land, but Congress actually brought the price down to $10 million and got less land. So they didn't want to pay as much as their original proposal, so they're like, okay, we're just going to take this area then. But man, how different things would have been if this happened. Here are the most used texting apps in all of Europe. This probably doesn't make sense to a lot of Americans because we all just use the native iPhone messenger, iMessage. But because a lot of these places don't just all have iPhones, it's like Androids. Everyone has different phones around the world. You need messenger apps to make it a lot easier, obviously, to text quickly, more easily, in fact, too. We all just use iMessage in the US because so many people have iPhones. I know that fact confuses people from around the world. Yeah, we just text. We just kind of send normal SMS through our phone. People just find that really weird, I know. So WhatsApp is dominating Europe, just like WhatsApp is dominating, I think, most of the world, specifically Latin America. I don't really use WhatsApp. I have a WhatsApp. It's only to connect with my friends from other parts of the world. We have Facebook Messenger dominating the Visegrad group. I love how perfect that is. Hungary, Slovakia, Czechia, and Poland, they're all united. Also Lithuania. The Scandinavian countries agree with iMessenger, but Finland, the Nordic country, does not. A lot of Eastern Europe all using Telegram. I like Telegram. I do be liking some Telegram. You can do some crazy thing over there. And I've never heard of this. A lot of the Balkans are using Viber. I don't know what Viber is. Learn something new every day. The champion of each major sport in the US updated as of February 2024. Sorry for my Niner fans out there, and I guess practically everyone that follows football. Kansas City Chiefs have won again. So Missouri is winning in the American football category. Colorado technically has the championship in the NBA. We got the Rangers in Texas that won in the MLB. Ohio won the soccer championship. I didn't even hear about that. And finally, funny enough, Nevada has ice hockey. Wouldn't think that giant desert state would have the ice hockey championship, but they've made it work. One of those maps that are constantly changing though. Oh man, the currency used before the euro in European countries. And for some of these places, it really wasn't even that long ago. Also, a lot of this stuff I don't even know. So I know Croatia just recently changed. I know the nation of Czechia is thinking about changing soon. So in Germany, they had the German mark before, and in France was the franc. Also in Luxembourg, also in Belgium, the Dutch had the guilder. Also, the Irish also had the pound. In Swedish, they still use their own currency, even though they're a part of the EU. All a little bit different in the Baltic states and Finland. A lot of these places using the lira all the way down. The peseta in Spain, the escudo in Portugal. Cyprus using pound is not super surprising since the British held that as a colony for so long. The Australia shilling. This might be one of those maps that will have to be updated. We'll see who else adopts the euro in the future. Southern states and Iowa are highly overrepresented in the NFL. So comparing the population of each state and how many members there are in those states in the NFL, we can kind of come to these conclusions. So Louisiana is home to 70 NFL players out of their population, which is only 4.6 million. That's 15 players per 1 million people that live in this state. And that trend follows all throughout the Deep South. Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia. They really love themselves some football down there. And that's obviously reflected in college football as well. Holy crap, there's not a single person from Vermont in the NFL at the moment. It's funny, there's a lot of people that came from California, Texas, and Florida, but you have to remember those states already have huge populations. So it kind of offsets the fact that there's a lot of people in the NFL that come from those states. Iowa is the outlier here, way up there. It's like where all the linemen come from, huh? Them big old boys out there. Same with Nebraska, you know that's the reason why too. Also Indiana, Ohio, Michigan. We got some pretty good numbers out of Delaware, surprisingly, and Maryland. You can really see the states that aren't big fans of football, really. New Mexico, very, very low. And they don't have that much population either. And thank you to the patrons. Go to the link in the description down below to patreon.com to support me. JohnDenver, Jack Traven's annoying friend. I can't sleep without Drew's voice. InquisitorXarius, Henrik Hedlund, Fredrik Tibblin, DoOOCHBAGGINS. Drew, it's your dad back with the DaBeautiful-MEGAN-Underwood, Carmel Saida, amateur archaeology,
sebby, if you hear this, I love you,
Luxembourglover,
Tambre, and ZaneyBoi.